What if I told you that tonight, you could step through a door and find yourself in the beating heart of Carthage, standing among thousands of voices rising in anticipation of a royal coronation? Sounds unbelievable, does not it? Before we take this leap into the past, take a quick second to like this video, let me know where you are watching from, and subscribe to the channel if you are ready for a ride unlike anything you have ever experienced. Because once we cross that threshold, there is no turning back. Now, imagine the ground trembling slightly beneath your feet, not from an earthquake, but from the roar of drums echoing across the ancient city. The air is thick with smoke from incense and the sharp tang of salt carried from the Mediterranean Sea. Around you, the crowd presses in, cloaks brushing against your arms, voices chattering in a language both alien and oddly familiar. You are no longer a spectator reading history books. You are in the middle of it. The question is, can you handle what comes next? Because what you are about to witness is not just a coronation, it is a moment designed to shape empires, to ignite wars, and to command the attention of gods and mortals alike. As the haze clears, the city of Carthage unfolds before your eyes like a living painting. You see wide avenues lined with merchants selling spices, fabrics, and ivory from distant lands. The smell of roasted lamb and honey cakes mixes with the briny sea breeze, and you can almost taste the wealth that flows through this city. Your gaze lifts to the walls, massive and imposing, rising like a shield against anyone daring enough to challenge Carthage. Ships crowd the harbor, their sails catching the golden light of the sun, proof that this city is not just powerful but connected to every corner of the Mediterranean. You begin to realize why Rome, the rising power across the sea, saw Carthage not as a neighbor but as a rival to be feared. The people move with a rhythm, their steps echoing confidence. Priests in long robes carry sacred symbols, children run through alleys laughing, and traders haggle loudly over the price of pearls. And yet, beneath the lively chatter, there is a tension in the air, as if everyone knows that today is not ordinary. Today, a new king will be crowned, and the destiny of Carthage will tilt in a new direction. For a moment, you stop and wonder, if you were a citizen here, would you be proud to see your city shine, or worried about what storms the future might bring? The closer you move toward the royal quarter, the more you sense the weight of power pressing down on this city. Carthage was not ruled by one man alone, but by a complex web of elites, judges, priests, and generals. Yet when a coronation took place, it meant more than just a new ruler. It was a signal to the gods, to allies, and to enemies that Carthage was reborn with renewed strength. The palace rises like a jewel of stone and cedar, decorated with mosaics that tell stories of victories at sea and offerings to the gods Baal Hammon and Tanit. Priests chant hymns in a tongue heavy with ritual, their voices low and resonant, as if calling down divine approval for what is about to unfold. You notice the people bow their heads not only to honor the soon-to-be king, but also to shield themselves from the unseen eyes of their deities. Here, politics is never just politics, it is religion, it is war, it is survival. A coronation was as much about binding the people together in faith as it was about crowning a leader. And in the midst of this sacred ceremony, whispers of power and betrayal always linger. Who truly controls Carthage, the crowned king, the council of elders, or the gods watching from above? Imagine yourself standing at the edge of the palace square, trying to blend into the crowd. Would you trust the promises of the royal family, or would you suspect, as many did, that every oath carried a hidden dagger? The square outside the palace begins to thrum like a living heart. Musicians strike their instruments, long trumpets blaring in metallic waves while drums pound in deep rhythms that rattle your chest. Bright banners ripple in the wind, dyed with crimson and gold, each one carrying symbols of Carthaginian gods and the lineage of kings. Crowds push closer, shoulder to shoulder, as if no one dares to miss a single instant of what is about to unfold. The smell of sweat, incense, and roasted meat creates a dizzying mixture, and you realize the entire city has turned this event into both a ritual and a festival. Children climb onto their fathers' shoulders. Merchants pause their trades, and soldiers in bronze armor form a glimmering wall of protection around the square. Behind those soldiers, you glimpse the procession forming. Priests carry sacred flames, their faces painted with ash. Noble families appear in robes shimmering with jewels, whispering to each other about alliances and rivalries. And somewhere in that swirl of colors and power, the soon-to-be king waits, hidden yet felt, like a storm on the horizon. The air itself grows heavy. You feel goosebumps rise on your arms, not just from the chill but from the sense that history is about to tilt. The question presses on your mind: if you were standing here, would you push closer to witness every detail, or hang back in fear that being too near to kings and gods could draw unwanted attention? To yourself. The gates of the palace swing open, and a hush falls over the crowd as though the entire city takes a single breath. Out of the shadows steps the figure everyone has been waiting for. The soon-to-be king, adorned in a robe dyed deep purple, the color of power and divine favor. His crown, not yet placed, is carried before him on a cushion of gold, shimmering under the sunlight like a beacon meant to blind both friend and foe. The priests lift their voices, chanting words that rumble like thunder. Incense burners swing in arcs, sending waves of smoke that blur the line between reality and the divine. Soldiers slam their spears into the ground in unison, each strike echoing like the heartbeat of Carthage itself. The anticipation coils tighter with every second until it feels as though time itself has slowed to witness this moment. Then the coronation reaches its climax. The high priest raises the crown high above the assembly, calling upon Baal Hammon and Tanit to bless this ruler with strength and wisdom. The crowd erupts, a tidal wave of voices crying out in devotion, pride, and fear. The crown descends onto the king's head, and in that instant, the city transforms. You can feel the energy crackle in the air, a mix of triumph, divine power, and the unspoken dread of what this leadership might bring. And here comes the question: if you were there, standing close enough to see the reflection of fire in the new king's eyes, what would you feel? Awe, loyalty, or perhaps the instinctive fear that when gods and kings make decisions, ordinary people are often the ones to pay the price? As the cheers fade into echoes in your mind, another thought creeps in. How is it even possible that you are here, standing in Carthage centuries before your own time? Science might not give us a working time machine yet, but it does give us fascinating theories. Einstein's theory of relativity tells us that time is not fixed but bends and stretches depending on speed and gravity. Some scientists speculate that if you traveled fast enough, near the speed of light, time itself could warp, allowing you to slip into another era. Others look at the concept of wormholes, tunnels in space-time that could act as cosmic shortcuts, folding history like pages in a book. Of course, there is also the unsettling idea of parallel universes. What if you did not actually go back in your past, but stepped sideways into a reality where Carthage is still alive? Its coronation forever frozen in a repeating loop. That would mean every choice you make here might create ripples across countless versions of history. And here's the twist: if time travel were real, would you even be safe the moment you interact with someone, speak a word, or even stand in the wrong place? You could alter the course of history. Imagine dropping your phone in the palace courtyard. Centuries later, archaeologists dig it up, and the world's timeline bends into something unrecognizable. So, the question for you is this: if science gave you the chance to actually travel through time, would you dare to take it, knowing the risk is not just to yourself, but to every moment that comes after? Even as the science of time lingers in your thoughts, the voices of the priests draw you back into the realm of the mystical. For the people of Carthage, gods were not distant abstractions. They were present in every ritual, every oath, every battle. Baal Hammon was the father, demanding sacrifices for prosperity, while Tanit was the protector, a goddess of fertility and fate. And on days like this, with a coronation underway, both were believed to be watching with piercing eyes. Legends whispered that Carthage carried a curse, not from its gods, but from those it conquered. Cities razed, enemies enslaved, offerings made in blood. The weight of vengeance hung over its golden walls. Some said that the crown itself carried omens, that each ruler's rise was paired with a prophecy of ruin. You look at the faces around you, and you realize many are not just cheering for a king. They are pleading silently that the gods will delay the storm they all fear is coming. The air thickens and a chill slides down your spine. You imagine shadows of long-dead enemies standing at the edges of the square, unseen but whispering curses into the wind. What if they are right here, waiting for Carthage to collapse under its own pride? And here's the haunting question. If you had the chance, would you warn them? Would you tell these proud citizens that within a century, Rome will burn their city to the ground, salt the earth, and try to erase their memory from history? Or would you stay silent, knowing that fate, once spoken, can never be undone? The coronation concludes. The new king raises his hand, and the crowd roars in a wave of sound that shakes the very stones beneath your feet. Carthage, for this moment, feels eternal, its people united, its gods invoked, its power undeniable. Yet you know something they cannot. History's tide is already turning. You take one last look around. The colors of banners, the echo of trumpets, the scent of incense, the shimmering crown, they will never leave your memory. You have just witnessed a ceremony that defined an empire, a ritual that bound together politics, religion, and destiny in ways modern society can barely imagine. But as the vision begins to fade, you are left with a lingering thought. What if you really could step through time, not just as an observer but as a participant? Would you swear loyalty to the king, whisper warnings of the future, or simply vanish back to your own era, carrying secrets no one else could ever believe? Thank you for journeying with me through this what if. If you enjoyed this exploration, drop a comment below. Tell me, if you stood in that crowd of Carthage, would you cheer, fear, or try to change history itself? And let me know what other places or moments in history you would like to explore next. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this adventure so we can keep traveling through time together.